Hey everyone, welcome back to Malaysia in Focus, where we break down the stories shaping Malaysia's social, political, and cultural landscape. Because today's story has way more beneath the surface than it seems. The absolute power to stop a massive, landscape-shifting alliance between UMNO and PAS doesn't actually lie with the top politicians. It lies squarely in the hands of Pakatan Harapan voters. So we are going to untangle this complex web of political alliances step by step. Here's our roadmap. We'll start with the big political paradox, look at how state elections work as test labs, uncover UMNO's magic number 70, break down the friendly match strategy, dive into the eggs-in-one-basket voter mindset, and finally, talk about fixing the electoral system. All right, part 1, the big political paradox. Political scientist Dr. Wong Chin Huat points out something really counterintuitive here. The creation of a mega alliance between Barisan Nasional, or BN, and Perikatan Nasional, PN, is ironically dictated by how Pakatan Harapan voters behave. It sounds crazy, right? But let's look at why. Which brings us to part 2, state elections as test labs. You know, it's really easy to just dismiss state elections as local news, but they are actually crucial, real-time testing grounds for future alliances. Take Johor and Negeri Sembilan, for example. Johor showed us exactly what happens when opposition votes split and PH voters decide to just stay home. BN swept up in those messy, multi-cornered fights. But then look at Negeri Sembilan. That was a direct testing ground for the new PH-BN alliance. The real question was, could bitter rivals actually stomach voting for each other in straight fights? Well, these two local labs gave politicians the exact hard data they needed for the next general election.
Let's move on to part 3, UMNO's magic number 70.
At the end of the day, political parties are driven by survival and, honestly, pride. UMNO absolutely refuses to remain the little brother in any coalition. Just look at the current parliamentary reality. KH and PN hold roughly 71 seats each, while BN is stuck way behind in a distant third place with just 23 seats. UMNO feels completely trapped in the middle, and let's be real, you cannot dictate terms from third place. They are desperate to break out of this deadlock. And that brings us to their ultimate goal. 70. That is the exact number of seats UMNO calculates they need in Peninsular Malaysia to reclaim that big brother status and dominate both PH and PN. Think about it. If they can hit 70 seats, they're back in charge. The remaining seats would naturally get split between PH and PN, leaving neither side with enough power to challenge UMNO's supremacy. Reaching 70 means they get to call the shots again. If this breakdown of Malaysia's political chess game is giving you a clearer picture, hit like and subscribe so you'll always stay ahead of our biggest national stories. All right, part 4, the friendly match strategy.
So how on earth do they get back to 70? Pakatan Harapan initially tried to just completely co-opt UMNO, but you can't absorb a proud party and expect its grassroots to just nod and go along quietly. Here is the massive aha moment from Dr. Wong Chin Huat. To survive, UMNO actually needed to fight friendly matches against its own allies. They literally have to clash in targeted seats to prove to their base that they haven't sold out, because if they don't, their voters will just flee to PN. Sometimes, fighting your allies is the only way to save the multi-coalition government.
Let's walk through the mechanics of how this works on the ground. Step 1, allies intentionally compete against each other in specific overlapping seats. Step 2, they rally their own traditional voter bases separately, using their own distinct branding. They get their supporters fired up on their own terms. And finally, step 3. After the election, once the dust settles, they form a coalition as equals. It's a totally calculated performance. It preserves UMNO's brand and stops voters from feeling compromised. Let's shift gears a bit. Part 5, the eggs in one basket. To truly grasp this election math, we have to look at the political psychology behind it all. We really need to ask this stark question directly. Why do Malay voters feel anxious? How can a community that holds majority political power in the country still feel so fundamentally insecure? The answer lies in the fear of putting all your political power into a single centralized basket. Think of it like this. When power is highly centralized, voters feel incredibly protective of it. Any splintering of their community into 3 or 4 different political parties feels like a massive, unacceptable risk. To them, it feels like the entire basket of power could just be stolen by rivals while everyone inside is busy arguing with each other. And here's the kicker. Our current electoral system fuels this exact anxiety. We use a winner-takes-all, first-past-the-post system. If your community's votes are split between 3 different parties, even if you are the majority overall, a united minority party can swoop right in and take the seat. First-past-the-post brutally punishes divided communities. So while having multi-party coalitions is great because it provides voter choice, in a winner-takes-all setup, that choice triggers deep anxiety. Voters are absolutely terrified of splitting their votes and losing everything.
Finally, let's look at Part 6, Fixing the Electoral System.
How do we break this toxic, anxious cycle of voting out of fear? The structural solution might be a partyless system. Put simply, this is where seats are allocated based on the total percentage of votes a party receives nationwide, rather than just who wins a specific local district. Imagine if 10% of the country cares deeply about climate change or the threat of AI replacing jobs. Right now, their votes are scattered and they win 0 seats. But under a partyless system, like the at-large seats in Taiwan, getting 10% of the vote means your party actually gets 10% of the seats. Small parties focusing on niche issues can actually survive and win representation. It totally removes the fear of the wasted vote.
Let's bring this all together. What should you take away from all this? First, the incredible paradox. PH voters unknowingly control whether a massive BNPN alliance happens based on their turnout. Second, UMNO is desperately chasing 70 seats to reclaim its big brother dominance. Third, politicians use friendly matches against their allies to preserve their crucial party identity. Fourth, centralized power in a winner-takes-all system creates deep eggs-in-one-basket voter anxiety. And finally, electoral reform, like a partyless system, is the key to allowing smaller parties to thrive and letting the country breathe.
Thanks for watching. Join thousands of Malaysians who want clarity, not confusion. Top like, hit subscribe, and let's keep making sense of our political future together. We've seen the math, we've unpacked the psychology, and we've looked at the solutions. But the ultimate question remains. Will our political elites embrace these vital electoral reforms to move Malaysia forward, or will they just keep playing the exact same anxious game to hold on to power? It's something we all need to be watching very closely.